Is feeling the pinch. The airline, once a symbol of French pride and global reach, is now grappling with significant challenges. They've been kicked out of Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali. These countries, once reliable hubs for Air France, have now closed their doors to the airline. These expulsions have cost the airline a hefty sum, over 65 million euros. The financial impact is staggering, affecting not just the airline, but also the broader French economy. That's a big chunk of change, especially considering they were raking in over 2 million euros daily from these countries. The loss of such a significant revenue stream has forced Air France to rethink its strategies and operations. But Air France isn't the only French company feeling the heat. Many other French businesses operating in Africa are also facing similar challenges. They are just the tip of the iceberg. The underlying issues run much deeper, affecting various sectors and industries. A wave of anti-French sentiment is sweeping across Africa, and it's hitting French businesses hard. Protests and demonstrations are becoming more frequent, signaling a growing discontent with French presence. So how did we get here? To understand the current situation, we need to delve into the historical context that has shaped these events. To understand that, we need to take a little trip back in time. The roots of this discontent can be traced back to the colonial era. France, you see, has a long and complicated history with Africa. This history is marked by exploitation and control, and by complicated, I mean exploitative. The colonial powers extracted vast amounts of resources, leaving little for the local populations. For centuries, France treated Africa like its own personal piggy bank, extracting resources and hoarding the profits. This exploitation has left a lasting impact on the continent. They called it colonialism, but it was basically just a nicer way of saying, we're taking your stuff and you're going to smile about it. The local populations had little say in the matter. This went on for decades, leaving deep scars on the continent. The environmental and social impacts are still felt today. Now those scars are starting to heal, and France is finding out that the age of neo-colonialism is coming to an end. African nations are asserting their independence and reclaiming their resources. France's relationship with Africa is rooted in exploitation. They swooped in under the guise of colonization, but it was a thinly veiled power grab. They plundered Africa's resources for their own gain, leaving little but crumbs for the people they claimed to be helping. This wasn't some ancient history lesson, folks. We're talking about decades of systematic exploitation that continued well into the 20th century. They controlled everything from mines to governments, all while lining their own pockets. This history of exploitation bred resentment. It's like that friend who always takes the biggest slice of pizza and never offers to pay. Eventually, people get tired of being taken advantage of. And that's exactly what's happening in Africa. They're waking up and realizing that they deserve better than to be treated like France's personal ATM. Recently, a series of military coups have rocked the Sahel region. Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, they've all seen pro-French regimes toppled. These coups weren't just about a change in leadership, they were a resounding rejection of French influence. The message was clear: we're taking back control. These new governments are done playing by France's rules. They're prioritizing their own national interests, even if it means showing French businesses the door. And who can blame them? For years, France has acted like they own the place, dictating terms and calling the shots. But the tide is turning. These coups are a sign that Africa is done being pushed around. They're reclaiming their sovereignty, and France is just going to have to deal with it. Section 4, plundered riches, gold, uranium, and economic domination. Let's talk specifics, shall we? France loves to talk about its partnerships with African nations, often highlighting the mutual benefits and shared progress. But let's call it what it is, a one-sided arrangement where France reaps the lion's share of the benefits. Take gold, for instance. This precious metal has been a cornerstone of wealth for centuries. France has been a major player in West African gold mines for decades, extracting vast quantities of the precious metal. The scale of these operations is immense, involving advanced machinery and a large workforce. But what do the local communities see in return? Not much. The wealth generated rarely trickles down to improve their living conditions. Or how about uranium? Niger, one of the world's largest uranium producers, has been supplying France with nuclear fuel for years. This uranium is crucial for France's energy needs, powering its nuclear reactors. The French energy company Orano practically ran the show there, controlling a huge chunk of the country's electricity production. Their influence is pervasive, shaping the energy landscape of Niger. But did that translate into affordable electricity for the Nigerian people? Not so much. Despite the abundance of resources, many Nigerians still struggle with limited access to electricity. See, France likes to talk a big game about development and partnership, but their actions tell a different story. The reality on the ground often contradicts the lofty promises made in diplomatic circles. It's all about control and profit. The exploitation of African resources continues, with the benefits flowing disproportionately to foreign powers, leaving local communities to bear the brunt of environmental and social costs. Section 5. The allure of new alliances. Now, with France's grip loosening, African nations are looking for new friends. And guess who's waiting in the wings? Russia and China. They're offering a different kind of partnership, one that doesn't involve centuries of baggage and exploitation. They're investing in infrastructure, offering trade deals, and promising to treat African nations as equals. And you know what? It's working. Countries like Burkina Faso are turning to Russian and Chinese companies for mining operations. They're signing trade agreements that benefit both sides. They're finally free to choose partners who respect their interests. This is a major shift in the global balance of power, and France is not happy about it. Section 6. A ripple effect across industries. It's not just Air France and the mining companies feeling the pinch. The anti-French sentiment is spreading like wildfire, and other French companies are getting burned. Bolloré Group, a giant in logistics and transport, is finding its operations replaced by local companies. Total Energies, a major player in oil and gas, is facing frozen exports and losing ground to new competition. Even Vinci Group, known for its infrastructure projects, is losing bids to international rivals. The message is clear. France's days of calling the shots in Africa are over. They can no longer rely on their colonial past to guarantee their economic interests. The world is changing, and France is struggling to adapt. Section 7, a shifting global landscape. This isn't just about France and Africa, it's about a broader transformation that is reshaping the entire global landscape. This is about a fundamental shift in the global order. The dynamics of power and influence are changing rapidly. The old colonial powers are losing their grip and new players are emerging. The remnants of colonialism are being overshadowed by modern advancements. The rise of BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, is challenging the West's dominance. These countries are not just growing economically, but also asserting their political influence. They offer alternative models of development and cooperation, ones that don't involve exploitation and neo-colonialism. Their approach is more inclusive and aims at mutual growth. As for France, they're not taking it well. The shift in power dynamics has left them scrambling to maintain their influence. They've responded with sanctions and diplomatic pressure, trying to bully African nations into submission, but it's not working. The resistance is growing stronger. If anything, it's only fueled the flames of resentment. The people are more determined than ever to break free from old shackles. France needs to wake up and realize that the world has moved on. The era of colonial dominance is a thing of the past. The age of colonialism is over. The world is moving towards a future where equality and mutual respect are paramount. It's time for France to embrace a new era of respect, equality, and mutually beneficial partnerships. Only then can they hope to remain relevant in this new world order.